Hey, what's up guys? I am Chase here at Rocky Mountain ATV MC, and these are my top 5 new motorcycle and ATV maintenance tips. All right, congratulations. You are the owner of a new motorcycle or an ATV. Now I know you're dying to get out there and rip around, but there are a few maintenance tips that I have for a brand new motorcycle or ATV that I think everyone should do before they go out and ride. Now I've got here with me today, this is a Husqvarna TE150, a 2017. Now this bike's got about 10 hours on it, so it's been ridden, but we went through and we did a lot of maintenance things to this bike before we actually went out there and rode. So these are tips that are really gonna help you out to get the most out of your machine. Now the first one that I'm gonna talk about is your basic machine setup. And what I'm talking about is your air filter, your coolant levels, and also your tire pressure. So with your air filters, these are gonna be a foam filter that come on just about any bike or ATV, and they're gonna come pre-oiled. However, I've seen it firsthand that the air filter does not come with enough oil in it. It's hard to have too much oil, but it's easy to not have enough. If you don't have enough, dust and little particles can get into your motor, and that is not a good thing. So it's always a good idea, pull the air filter out and add oil if it needs it. And if you're absolutely sure that it has enough oil, then you'll be fine. It's actually not a bad idea to take your air filter and completely submerge it in oil. That's gonna make sure you have the thing completely covered and you don't have any doubts there. We've actually got a cool video where we show you air filter maintenance, so you know exactly how to upkeep your air filter. Probably one of the most important things when it comes to longevity of your motor is doing good upkeep. Now we carry a lot of different oils, air filter oils here at Rocky Mountain. One that I personally use is actually this Bel Ray air filter oil. I'm telling you, when it comes to oils that are sticky and tacky, this is one of the best, in my opinion, that is out there. So this is what I personally use. We do carry a lot of different options as well. So if you don't want to go with the Bel Ray, we got a lot of others to choose from. Okay, so that's your air filter. Make sure it's oiled, get that dialed in. From there, you want to check your coolant levels and also your engine oil. Now for both of these, refer to your owner's manual. That's gonna make sure they're gonna explain how to check those levels. They're also gonna tell you what type of oil or coolant to put in your bike. But you gotta realize that motorcycles brand new, when they get to the dealership, they're gonna come bone dry. The dealership then puts them together and they're gonna add the oil and the coolant. Now I'm not saying you don't trust the dealership that you bought your motorcycle from, but it's never a bad idea to double check, make sure you've got enough oil and enough coolant, because that can be absolutely devastating if you don't. Now last tip when it comes to your machine setup is gonna be with air pressure. Now I've seen bikes come with way too much PSI. I've also seen them come low before. So check your owner's manual. They're gonna give you a range of where your PSI should be at. Usually it's probably gonna be right about 13, but it's never a bad idea. Make sure to check that, because too much air, that's gonna make your ride really harsh. And if you don't have enough, you could possibly get pinch flats. Neither of those you are going to want, so check your PSI. Now after you've got that done, next thing, you're gonna grease your pivot points. Now pivot points, what I'm talking about is gonna be your rear shock linkage and swing arms, and then also you're gonna have your steering stem bearings in the front. Now, they're gonna come with grease, but in my opinion, any new bike, at least the ones that I've seen firsthand, do not come with anywhere near enough grease in the steering stem or in your rear swing arm in your linkage. And they don't really pack it in all that well. So what you want to do, if you don't know how to pull off your steering stem bearings, we have how-to videos for that, as well as the rear linkage and your swing arm. So we show you how to do that, but it's a really good idea. Pick up some good quality grease. You can get this Bel Ray grease. I personally use this as well. It needs to be waterproof, but you want to pull those bearings out and you want to service those. So you want to pack those up with grease, make sure they're really lubricated. And you got to remember, grease, it does a couple of things. It keeps dirt and debris out, as well as water. And that's gonna make sure you're not gonna get corrosion and you're rusting. If you do go out and ride right away without checking those to make sure you have enough grease, well, you can get debris and other things in there, premature wear, and possibly seize up your bearings, which is never a good thing. So make sure, get your linkage, your swing arm, and your linkage bearings, and also your steering stem bearings. You want to make sure those do have enough. Now my third tip is going to be for jetting. So if you bought a fuel injected bike or ATV, this probably won't apply to you, but for you guys out there on carbureted machines, you definitely want to pay attention to this. Now when I talk about jetting, really what I'm just referring to is your carb jetting. That's going to get the fuel and air ratio mixture just right, depending on where you're going to be riding. Now most of your bikes right off the showroom, they're gonna be jetted for about 0 to 2,000 feet of elevation. Now for us here at Rocky Mountain, well, we ride anywhere from say 4,000 all the way up to 10,000 feet of elevation. So we usually have to, we always actually rejet our bikes to get that fuel air mixture ratio just right. Now up here at these higher elevations, well, the air is a little bit thinner, so if we're running too much fuel, we're gonna be running rich. So what we have to do is lean the bike out. In other words, we have to reduce the amount of fuel to match the thinner air that we have here at these elevations. Now, if you're running rich, or if you want to know if you're running rich, A couple signs is when you get on the gas hard, if your bike is bogging, or if it just has a little bit of delay in the acceleration, if you're fouling spark plugs, or if you take your spark plug out and it's a little bit dark and it's wet, well, that's a good indicator that your bike might be running too rich, so you'd want to lean it out. Now, if you're running too lean, well, lean means that you don't have enough fuel for the amount of air going through your motor. So if you're running lean, a couple signs of that. If you have backfire when you're decelerating, if you get a lot of engine surge, so when you let off the throttle and your engine will start to rev really high, or if you look at your spark plug and it's white on top, those are signs that your bike is running a little bit lean. So jetting is really important. Now, when it comes to jetting, a lot of guys have questions about that. How do you do it? How do you know what's going to be right? Well, an easy way to take away those doubts or those questions is you can go with the jet kit. We've actually had really good success with the JD jet kits. We've used those on a ton of our bikes here. It really just takes the guesswork out. They're going to give you instructions to know exactly how to jet the bike depending on the elevation that you're going to be riding at to get everything working just right. So that's my third tip. You want to make sure if you bought a carbureted bike, you want to have the correct jetting depending on where you're going to be riding at. Now for my fourth tip, it's going to be for rider setup. And what I'm really talking about here is going to be for your suspension. Suspension on new bikes is absolutely awesome, but it's always a good idea. You want to make sure before you go out and ride that you're at your base setting first of all. So check your owner's manual. That's going to tell you where your clicker should be at for your forks and your shock. But rear sag or rider sag is absolutely crucial, and that's something that you have to set, or you want to set before you go out and ride, hands down, got to do it. And the reason that rider sag is so important, well, that's going to balance out the motorcycle to make sure the ride height is where it needs to be. It's going to give you a nice, good, comfortable ride. It's also going to make your riding safer as well. Now, we do have a really good video that talks about suspension in general, what your clickers do, how to adjust your sag, so make sure you watch those videos if you're not sure, and that will get you squared away. So check your clickers, check your owner's manual, and get your sag set up to where it needs to be. Now, once you've done that, well, then go ahead and throw on some stuff that's just going to make you more comfortable on the bike in general. Maybe some different foot pegs, different seat cover, get some handlebars on there that you like, a bend that you're comfortable with. We got a lot of different handlebars to choose from. So you just want to make sure the bike feels comfortable to you when you're out there riding, and that's going to work in unison with getting your suspension set up the way it needs to be as well. Now, my fifth and final tip is going to be for braking. Now, I know when you get this bike right off the showroom floor, you're ready to go out there, you just want to twist it, rip and ride, and have a good time, and I don't blame you, but you got to remember, engines have a lot of moving parts, so it's really important before you go out and ride the first time, you want to start your bike up, and you want to just get those parts inside your engine hot, let them expand a little bit, and help them settle into their correct place. Now, your owner's manual is going to give you recommendations on how to brake in your motorcycle, so I highly recommend you look at those. But there is a common way that's been around for a long time that I can share with you if you're looking for other ways to do that. And what it is, it's really just running through a few heat cycles. So what you would do, you take your brand new bike, you fire it up, you let it run for about 10 minutes till it's warm. If you want to know if it's warm or not, just put your hand on your radiator cap. Don't take that off while you're running the bike, but put your hand on there. If it's warm, well, then you can turn the bike off, let it sit for a while, cool down, and then you would start it back up and do it again. And you would do that 3 times. Now, the first time, you don't want to really rev the bike up, just let it idle, you'll be fine. The second and third time, you can start to rev your bike up a little bit, run a little bit higher up in those RPMs. And once you've done that 3 times, that's just going to give enough time for those parts to heat up, expand, and really just settle in a little bit. And I'm telling you, that is absolutely crucial. You want to make sure you brake in your motorcycle just right. You don't want to go out and just rail it first thing, because that really can damage some of the components in your motor. Now, after you've done that, you also, last thing I will say is you want to check what your manual says as far as your first oil change, because that's typically pretty quick right after you get your brand new motorcycle. So that's going to tell you how quickly you should change the oil after you've ridden it for the first few hours. So that's it. Those are my top 5 new bike or ATV maintenance tips. So before you go out and rip around on your brand new dirt bike, I know you're excited. Make sure you go through, check these things off the list, and I promise you, this is going to help prolong the life and just make sure your bike is going to be better in the long run. If you guys do have any questions, thoughts, or comments, make sure you comment below. Head over to our website at RockyMountainATVMC.com to check out the products that I talked about today. Give us a call, chat live online if you do have questions, and we will get those answered. I'm Chase here at Rocky Mountain, and we'll see you on the trails.